So now we're going to look at circles with the hips. So let's just start with the posture again. My feet are about hip width apart. Relaxed. Slightly forward. I'm breathing. And remember this arm position where the shoulders are down? We're going to start with this. So let's start with the hips. We're just going to push them from side to side. So I lean and push this hip out to one side and make little movements to start with. Yeah, if you're not used to belly dancing, those muscles in there maybe aren't, they're not stretched, they're not toned. That's what this will do for you. So just make little movements. We're gonna start easy and we'll build up. So I'm just pushing my hip to this side. Breathing. Yeah. And if it's easier for you, you can take a little bit wider stance. Yeah, you don't have to have your feet directly under your hips. You can take a little bit wider stance. And breathe. And just push the hip out to one side. Since your knees are not bent, you don't have this movement going on. My knees are straight. Yeah. So just push it out to one side. Let's take it to the other side. Gently at first. Yeah, releasing those muscles. No holding here. Yeah. So now let's go back and forth. Yeah. Should feel nice and easy. And breathing. And notice just as you're doing this, the change of weight. This is going to become important later on. So as I lean to this side, the weight becomes centered over this leg. As I lean to this side, the weight becomes centered over this leg, slightly. You feel a slight shift of weight. So I'm not doing this with my upper body as my hips go from side to side, right? The idea is to have some isolation. Isolation here. So you want to keep your upper body fairly still. I mean, you don't want to be rigid by any means. There's going to be some movement. Whatever feels natural to you. And of course, you can look in the mirror and see if you are leaning from side to side with your hips. Yeah, that might be a good thing to do just as you get started. And breathing. So now we're going to do something similar. We're going to take the movement forward and back. So I'm going to do it from the side. I push my hips slightly forward. And this isn't a contraction in the back or a lifting or pushing with the chest. My chest and my back pretty much stay in the same position. I just push my hips through here to get them forward. So here is my normal stance. I'm pushing my hips forward. And I'm breathing. And this isn't something that you do every day. So take a little care, yeah? Take a little care that you're not pitching forward, that it's not putting pressure on your back, because belly dance can be a bit back intensive. It can be. And if you have back problems, it can help to strengthen your back, but it can also be a little bit taxing at first. So take care from your back. Make this movement very small. Breathe. Yeah. So from center then, I'm going to also go back. Yeah. I'm just pushing back through my hips. It's as if I have kind of a cord going through me and I'm sliding along this cord. My hips are going back toward the wall along this cord. And of course I use my abdomen here. I use those muscles here to help support me. And I also use those muscles to help support me in the front. It's a much better idea to use the stomach muscles than to use the back muscles. Of course you want to strengthen and build your back, but these muscles are generally stronger. So you want to think about those muscles pulling forward and back. And of course, breathing. So from the front. So now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of hit the 4 points of a circle. We're going to go forward, to the side, to the back, and to the other side. So forward, side, back, side. Forward, side, back, side, and forward. Let's take it to the other side. Forward, side, back, side, forward, side, back, side, and forward. So now we're going to circle those. We're going to kind of use those 4 points and draw a circle around them. So let's start in the front, circle to the side, circle to the back, and the other side. Front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side, and front. Let's take it to the other side. Front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side. Again, front, side, back, and side. So I'm going to circle the other direction and think about your feet. What are your feet doing? Where's the weight going? When I'm in the front, it's distributed equally. As I go over to the side, I carry more of my weight on this foot. Back, it becomes equal again. And this side, I'm carrying a little bit more here on this side. And this, again, becomes important later on. Yeah, so I'm circling. Circle and think about your feet. And go at the tempo that you feel comfortable with. You don't necessarily have to follow me. Although I wouldn't suggest going quickly. This is kind of for the whole DVD. I wouldn't suggest going more quickly than I do if you've never danced before, belly danced, because you tend to not really understand the movements. Sometimes you can do them quickly, but you can't slow them down. So if you, at the beginning, you really want to try and do them slowly. But the more you watch this DVD, of course, you can go a little faster. And I'm going to reverse the circle. And make sure you're breathing, your shoulders are down. Yeah. It should feel good. If it doesn't feel good, then you're probably not doing it right. Yeah? It's kind of nice to stretch those muscles out. And of course, strengthen them at the same time. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my feet a little bit closer together, and I'm going to do a smaller circle. Now that your muscles are kind of understanding what needs to happen, we're going to put the feet, be hip width apart. And we're going to take it forward and side and back and side. And notice it becomes a bit more muscle intensive, right? I'm doing smaller movements. Yeah? I'm circling a very small circle. And these muscles here in the stomach are facilitating that. And again, breathing, and this part of your body should be relaxed. Yeah? The back, your butt should be relaxed. You don't want to be tense through there because it brings tension all the way up through here. Yeah? Relax. Again, posture. So we're going to take it to the other side of this small circle. Breathing. Thinking about the weight change on your feet. And reverse one more time. Okay, now I'm going to do something completely opposite of that. I'm going to take a really big circle. So I'm going to step with my foot. I'm going to step with my foot and my hips. I have the forward in the front, but I have a pretty large, wide stance. So when I take it to the front from the side, so you can see, my knees are going to bend a little bit. Yeah, because I need to support myself here. I don't want to bend from here. This is very hard on the back. Support the knees. I have this cord running through me. The hips follow here. Yeah? Notice how my knees and my legs are helping me to bend backwards. Yeah, I'm not bending from here. So I go forward and forward and forward. I'm bending my knees. Yeah? And this probably isn't something that you do every day. So again, take care. Take care that you're letting these large muscles in your legs help support this movement. So now we're going to take it, as we did with the other circle, we're going to take it to the back. Yeah? And of course, my stomach muscles are helping support that. And this movement is something that's, I think, pretty specific to Egyptian styling. I see it in other Middle Eastern forms, Lebanese and Turkish, but it has a very distinctive place in Middle Eastern dance, this big movement in specifically Egyptian dance. Yeah? Okay. So now as I move to the side, I'm going to bend my knee. So I've gone forward and back. We're going to do the side. I'm going to bend slightly my knee and push my hip out. It's a big push. But it's the same. I'm just using my knee to kind of get my hips over here. Here's the push that we did earlier. My knees are straight. And here's this push. Now let's take it to the other side. Slight bend in the outside knee. So you probably see where this is going. This is a big hip circle. So I take a step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the circle to the side, not to the front. I'm going to start it to the side and to the back and to the side and to the front. Back, side, and front. Now I'm going to circle it. And I'm going to come up with my feet together. So this is sexy, I think. Yeah, let's take it to the other side. And again, you know, when you start, if you continue on with dance, of course you have to decide when you use each of these movements. You know, this probably has its time and its place inside of your dance. But it's nice also because it's a good stretch. As I'm here, I'm stretching these muscles, working them. Here, I'm stretching these muscles. Here, I'm back through here. Again, in this situation when I'm back, don't lock your knees, yeah? Never, I can say never completely lock your knees. You want to have some softness in your knees, like yoga. You don't want your knees, I don't know if you can see this, you don't want your knees completely to the end of where they can go. Keep a little bit of softness in them. And the idea of the dance is soft, yeah? So when I'm back, I have a softness in my knees. There's kind of a softness here. I'm breathing. So let's take this big circle, again to the right. We're going to start in the front this time, to the side, and back, and circle it to the side. Yeah, I'm supported. And what I'm doing with my hands is that they're going opposite of my hips. And we'll finish here. Let's take it to the other side. We're going to start to the front. And side, back, side. Notice the knee bending. And again, this should feel good. If it doesn't feel good, if it's stretching, straining, if you're having hip or knee issues, then don't do this. Start slowly and build up. Yeah? So we've got hip pushes and hip circles. Yeah, to the other side. And And smaller hip circles. Let's just keep this going. Yeah, feel the muscles working. And I think what's nice about this dance form is that, I've changed directions, is that it strengthens you without necessarily, unless you are a professional Middle Eastern dancer, without giving you a real cut look or a real fit look. You get this kind of softness but strength, and I think it's really lovely. Yes, so circle. And now we're gonna take a big circle by taking a step, and with support. And take a step with support, going around. All right, so let's just try, those were the circles. Let's try and do some figure eights now. So I'm gonna start that off by doing a little bit of a twist from the center. So what I'm doing is I'm taking one hip and twisting it forward and back. And you can think of working on one hip at this point. Both of your hips are gonna twist. If you twist one hip, the other one twists. But I'm thinking about this hip at the moment. I'm twisting this hip forward and back. And breathing, shoulders relaxed, smiling. If you smile, you relax. And let's take this hip. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that twist at the end of a push. This push that we used earlier, I'm going to push to one side and twist at the end of that push. So just try that for a second. And we'll take it over to the other side and twist. Yeah, is that working for you? Forward and back, and slide and forward and back. So now we'll take this push to this side, twist to the front, so this hip is going forward. Now I'm going to slide on the diagonal to the back. So this, let's just go through that for a second. I'm pushed here, twisted, and I'm sliding on the diagonal. Yeah? Let's do it on the other side. So we're going to twist here to the front and slide on the diagonal. So to complete the movement, I'll go push to the side, twist to the front, and slide to the back. Now I'm going to twist to the front, slide to the back, twist to the front, slide to the back, twist and slide, twist and slide, twist and slide, twist and slide, twist and slide. And now we're going to take the rough edges off, twisting and sliding. So we're creating a nice fluid figure eight. Yeah? And your chest should be fairly still. It shouldn't be rigid. Shouldn't be rigid. Have some softness to it. Let it go along slightly with what's happening, but try and keep it fairly still. Back, twist, back, and twist. So we're hitting each of those points, but we're threading them together. And your knees should be soft. You're not locking your knees or bending them. Again, breathing. And letting your chest go slightly with your hips. Don't be rigid with your chest, but try to keep it a little bit still. Okay, so we'll take it to the center again, and we'll reverse that figure eight. So go to the side, and instead of twisting to the front, twist to the back. Slide through to the front, twist to the back. Slide through to the front, twist to the back. Slide through to the front, twist to the back, and slide to the front, twist to the back. So now we're going to put those together. Slide, twist, slide, and twist. So now we've reversed the figure 8. But we're doing the same thing as we did before, we're just going to the back instead of to the front. And to reverse again, we're going to the front. And to the back. So that's a horizontal figure 8. Now we're going to start to work with some vertical movements. That means up and down with the hips. So it's the same idea as pushing to each side, but instead of moving forward and back, we're going to lift the hip up. So the hip is actually going to come up. So let's just do this for a second, warming up the hip. What I'm doing is I'm standing on one foot, and I'm just bringing the hip up and down. The hip I'm not standing on. So I have my weight on one foot, and the opposite hip is coming up, just to warm up a little bit. Yeah, and now step on the other foot, and that free hip coming up. Yeah. So we want the hip, again, just a little push up, and the other hip. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to push to the side, and we're going to lift this hip up, the side that we're pushing to, up and down. Up and down. Up and down. So I can make a circle with my hip, just this hip. It's going to be half of the figure 8. So I'm circling in because I've pushed to the side and I've lifted up into the inside. Yeah, so let's try it with the other hip. Push to the side and lift up and to the inside. So I'm lifting up and I'm setting down. I'm going out, lifting up, setting down. Just circling one hip to the inside. And you can make this small. It doesn't have to be a very big movement. I'm just circling one side of my hips. Now we're going to put those two circles together in a figure 8. So push to the side, lift the hip up, and let it drop through to the other side. So now I'm extended to the other side. I pick the other hip up, and I drop all the way through to a push on the other side. And my knees are still straight. I haven't bent my knees. So what I'm doing is, if you can see my feet, my foot is coming up each time I push my hip over. Yeah, I'm lifting my heel of the hip that's up off the floor. Yeah, so let's just do a few of these together. Push and lift, push and lift, push and lift. And this is really intensive here. Yeah, you're really working those muscles. Yeah. So instead now of lifting the hip, I've pushed to this side and I'm lifting the hip that I've pushed to the side. Instead of that, I'm going to push to this side and I'm going to lift the other hip. Instead of lifting this hip, I'm going to lift the inside hip. Does that make sense? So I'm pushing to this direction, but I'm lifting this hip. Yeah, making a small circle with it. Yeah, it's the same movement. I'm just thinking about a different hip. Yeah, so let's take it to the other side. We'll push to this side. Yeah, and we'll push up. So now we're going to put those together. So I'm using this hip that I've pushed to the opposite side and lifting them up. So I'm pushing, lifting, pushing and lifting. Again, the knees soft, but not bent. So this one is kind of gooey. Yeah, you get it's a bit earthier. Yeah, because we're kind of going to we're going to the inside. Yeah, this is the other one that we did, where we lifted the hip that was extended. So let's just look at the difference. Yeah, now I'm lifting the hip on the inside. Yeah, and circles, just one hip at a time. And the other direction. Yeah, and this hip. And we can go the other direction. And figure eight. The first one that we did, and figure eight the second one we did. And breathing. Relax, relax the chest. Yeah, and let's just take the arms up and down. Yeah, so we're gonna try a completely different kind of circle now. So what we've done so far, we've circled horizontally. Yeah, we've done figure eights horizontally. We've done figure eights vertically, both directions. And now we're gonna start to incorporate a pelvic tilt. So what will happen, and a word of caution with this, you want to start very, very small. And even professional dancers, they don't overuse this movement, and they don't do it to the end of the movement. You want to keep this between a very comfortable range, because what you're doing, and you can bend the knees slightly for this, is you're using these muscles, releasing and pulling in. And what it will do is it will slightly tilt the pelvis forward and back, forward and back. So when I was talking about posture in the beginning, I was saying you don't want to stand in a posture with any kind of pelvic tilt. If you're starting to dance like this, or you're starting to dance like this, it really limits the movement you have here and how you can use this. So get in, let's talk about posture again. We'll get in a nice posture, slightly forward, relaxed, and we're gonna bend the knees slightly. So my knees are slightly bent. I'll do this on the diagonal so it's easier to see. Yeah? So you pull in with the stomach muscles, and then you release the stomach muscles. Pull in and release. Pull in and release. And I don't really like to think about the release in the back. I like to think about it in the stomach, because I think if you put your attention in your back, you're gonna start contracting in the back, and then that's gonna start causing back problems. So we want belly dance to help overcome back problems and not cause them. Yeah? So think about it in the stomach. Think about releasing the stomach muscles and contracting, releasing and contracting. Yeah, so my pelvis is tilting forward and back. It's gonna tilt a bit more forward than it does back. Yeah? Again, probably not something you do every day. So go slowly. Yeah, make a tiny little movement. It doesn't have to be a huge movement. Yeah, just to get the feel of it. Again, remember the knees are bent. This is the first time we've bent the knees. And breathing. Yeah, and from the front. So the movement, the circle that I'm going to use this in is an African-inspired circle, but it's used quite often in Egyptian-style belly dance. And you can start this, we can do this in fours like we did the other circle. We'll start pulling in, and then we're going to roll to the side. So this, we're going to roll into this hip by dropping and bending the other knee. Then we're going to roll it to the back, to the side, and to the front. So we can take it in fours, we can call this one. I'm contracted in one. I'm releasing over to this side, two. I'm releasing the stomach in the front, three. And I'm contracting here on this side. I'm bringing the hip up slightly. So my hips are moving. Hip is going up slightly. And then in on the front. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you look at my knees, you can see that my knees are kind of dictating what I'm doing on each side. And again, you want to be relaxed. So I'm hitting each of those 4 corners. 1, over into this hip, and this is not here. So look at the difference between here and here. Let's just stand for a second with the knees bent and move the hip up and down, up and down, up and down. And this hip up and down, up and down, up and down. My knees are bent, yeah? So a difference between this and this, yeah? So in on 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Let's go the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So let's roll it all together like we did with the other movements in a circle. So it looks like this. Pulled in on the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's rolling and breathing and relaxed. So in the front, I'm contracted in with my stomach muscles. In the back, they're released. Think of it as a release of the stomach and not a contraction of the back. And I'm rolling into this hip. It's coming up slightly, and then this hip is coming up slightly. Yeah? So let's stop it in the front. And we'll go the other side slowly. Front, side, back, side, front, side, back, side. And now we start to roll. Yeah. And it's kind of as if it's a circle using both vertical and horizontal movements at the same time. Yeah, and let's just straighten the knees and just release all the way down through a little shake. Little shake of the hips, little twist. Yeah, and we'll start over, okay? So from here, bend the knees, pulling in and rolling up and around through and breathing. So this is the African circle, or some, I've heard another term, I've heard it called Ami. And I want to show it to you from the side on the diagonal. And profile. Yeah, from the front. I'll reverse the direction. Diagonal. And from the front, also notice where the weight is. As I go from one side to the other, the weight distributes slightly to one side than the other. And reverse. So as I'm coming up through here, I'm putting the weight here. And again, I'm not leaning here, there's no movement here. And again, back to just a nice, easy pelvic tilt. Pull in, release. Yeah? So let's run through all the circles that we've done. We'll start from the beginning and we'll work our way through. So feet, feet where they're comfortable to you. Make sure that you feel comfortable when you're dancing. You don't want to be out here when you're doing movements that don't require you to be out here, and you don't want to be here because then you're not balanced well. So let's find the place that's comfortable for you, and we'll start to circle. And of course, every movement that I'm doing is not going to look the same on you because every body type is different. So you want a close approximation, but it doesn't have to be exact. And reverse. And breathe. And again, it should be kind of fun. And let's take it smaller circles, feet slightly closer together. Just circling around the center. And reverse. And now we're going to take a big circle. I'm going to take a step from the front to the side. My hands together. Take it this way. Around. And together. And now we're going to take figure eights. Push to the side, up and over and through. The heels coming off the floor. Yeah, and now we're going to reverse that. The hip on the inside goes up and over. And now we're going to do just circles with one hip, one direction, and starting from the outside, the in direction. And take it over here, the inside. And we'll reverse that. And the African circle. Knees bent, up, side, release, side. Contract, side, release, side. And reverse. Yeah, we'll take it up. Big breath and release. So that's our section on circles.